Right, good to roll? All right, thanks again for being here and for covering Wake Forest football. We appreciate it. Just to recap Florida State, like I said after the game, I just thought that was a great, gritty ACC road team win. And you know, sometimes there's games that you win and you're relieved, and that game was pure joy. It was, I think, one of the biggest wins that we've had here, and so much of it was because of the circumstances. You know, we just came off a tough loss to Clemson. We're on the road in a very tough environment to play against an undefeated ACC team that we have a lot of respect for, and the uncertainty of the weather. You know, not knowing if we'd be able to get down there, and all the communication that was going on with Delta and whether they were going to be able to fly, and you know, you mix all those things together, and it's not a straightforward week. And then the way the game started, you know, Florida State got the ball and they were up 7-0 in the blink of an eye. But just the way our defense responded, never any panic, and then we got some big stops. You know, the offense then scored 28 unanswered points, and they get back in the game then, and they score it and make it a 7-point game. And that drive of 18 plays and almost 7 minutes to make it a 2-score game, some of the plays that we made on that drive, the catch by Key and some of Sam's throws and the runs by Christian Turner, there were so many gut check moments in that game, and fortunately we made those plays. And then even for Matt Dennis to hit that field goal after his first career miss. So here's a redshirt freshman. He has his first taste of failure in a game, and the very next kick with the game on the line, he kicks it right through. And I just thought it was a really good character program win for our football team. And so, you know, when those games are over, you don't fly home, you float home. And then we come back here on Sunday, right? And if you're telling them to get over the loss and look ahead, you got to get over the win and get ahead. And so, you know, I think these are the opposite challenges, right? To come back and respond and recenter and refocus after a heartbreaking loss, and now you got to do the same thing after an emotional win. And that's what's so great about college football, that there's both responses, and they're both challenging. And now we have to refocus against a really good Army team. It's a program that I have a lot of respect for. Jeff Monken and I worked together at the University of Buffalo back in 1992. I've known him for 30 years. And the program that he's built at Army is incredible. I mean, they struggled for years and years and years. And if you just look at, you know, the previous 5 seasons, there's an 11-win, a 10-win, and 2 9-win seasons. And I'm sure they're not off to the start that they want, but this is a program that is used to winning, and the players are used to winning. And the nature of the character of the student athletes that they recruit there, it's, you know, these are guys that are extremely resilient football players. And you know, I just went and watched last year's game, and my heart started beating again. That was one of the most torturous games I've ever been through. You know, we couldn't get a stop. And, you know, if Trey Red doesn't make that pick 6 on the fake field goal and the guy was wide open, you know, that thing probably comes down to a 2-point play. And every game we've played with them has been like that. You know, it was a 3-point win in 14, a last-second field goal in 15. They beat us by 8 in 16, and then last year's game was a barn burner. And we're their one Power 5 game, and they're going to come here ready to play. And it's going to be a sellout crowd. We're excited about that. That's our 3rd sellout in a row, and our 5th sellout in the last 6 games. And we're really proud and appreciative of the type of fan support we're now getting. I remember when I first got here in 14, you know, the players, you know, geez, we don't get good crowds at home game. The students don't come. And the message was, why don't we put a product on the field we're supporting and let's see what happens. And I think we've done that, and the students and our fans have responded, and we're grateful for the support we're getting. On offense, again, this is still a very good football team. They're averaging over 32 points a game, 300 yards a game on the ground. They got two really good quarterbacks. The slot Robinson is a very dynamic player. I mean, he went up and down the field against us a year ago. Their tight end might be the best blocking tight end that we'll face all season. And they've got a really good O-line, and these guys know what they're doing. On defense, they've got some really good players as well. The safety Broughton, we think's an excellent player. He's a 2-year starter. He's got 29 tackles, an interception, a forced fumble. The defensive end, Carter, at one point last year, I think he led the country in sacks. He's 6'7" and 260 pounds and very athletic. And they're extremely aggressive on special teams. Last year they faked a field goal. They tried a surprise onside kick. They do that type of stuff all the time, and they're very aggressive with their punt block team. They blocked more punts than any team in the country in 2020 and 21 combined. I think they have 7 blocks. And every time we play these guys, it is a battle. And so we have a really important week of prep. The other years that we've played these guys, we've had an extra week to prepare for them. And this week, it's 1 week. And this is a really hard offense to prepare for. They're much more multiple on defense than they've been. And we expect a really good, hard-fought football game that we're going to have to play extremely well. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. The nature of their offense is they stress every single part of your defense. Up front, it's the midline, the veer, all the different traps they run. When you're the defensive lineman, your head's just on a swivel because you don't know where it's coming from. And, you get the belly G and the guard pulls and you got to get outside. And the next time you work outside and there's a guy trapping you. And, all the misdirection they have, if you're the linebackers, the guards at times lie to you, the linemen at times lie to you, the quarterback lies to you, the fullback lies to you. Jeff has been in this offense for over 30 years. When I worked with him at Buffalo, we ran a trap option offense, and he had worked with Paul Johnson all the way back to Hawaii in the 80s. And so this whole Paul Johnson system, Jeff has probably mastered it as well as anybody. And, in the secondary, all the different motions with the slots, the starting quarterbacks completed 2 balls for 130 yards. And then, the backup quarterback, 18, who's played, he's thrown the ball a little bit more, but they're throwing the ball better than they have in the past. And last year, they killed us with the pass. First play of the game, they run a naked boot, and they hit like a 50-yard play. They ran a rail route in the fourth quarter that 21 was wide open, right down the hash. They won some one-on-one balls against a really good corner of ours who's now in the NFL. This is, coaches always make a big deal of it. This offense is a nightmare to prepare for. It really is. It's a challenge, and, part of having success against it is you have to embrace it. I don't know if we embraced it a year ago. And I was just going to say, just thank God we operated the way we did on offense a year ago, or it would have been a blowout. It would have been a blowout.
What is your assessment of your defense through 5 games?
I think we're improving. I think we're better. I think we're fixing problems. Against Clemson, we were awful on 3rd down, and we went back and looked at what we did, and we had to make some change-ups, and we did it. And we were much better defense on 3rd down against Florida State. I still think we can become more consistent. I think we still have to do a much better job of playing deep balls. Just seems like every time there's a deep ball, we start grabbing when we don't need to. Some of our pass interferences, we're in great shape. Gavin on the one had the guy covered. Go pick the football. Those are still things that we need to get better at, and we're working on it. And it got better from Clemson to Florida State. But I think overall the arrow's up, but we got a lot of football to go.
How pleased have you been with the look on third downs with 3 down linemen and then 3, they're either linebackers or safeties, whatever mix that is? That seems like a pretty good package that's worked.
It's been good, and part of the reason it's been so good is how versatile Malik is. He's been effective as a blitzer. There's a few times against Florida State that we used him as a spy, that we tried to flush the quarterback in a direction, and sometimes in a direction away from where he wanted to throw the ball, and Malik's reaction time of getting there and disrupting throws. Sometimes you don't sack the guy, but Malik was there so quickly, and his hand is up, and you're changing arm angles and ball trajectory and all those things sometimes are the difference between a first down completion and incompletion. So it's been a good package. It was better against Florida State than it was Clemson. But I would say this. I think the reason it was better against Florida State is I think our defensive line rushed the passer so much better against Florida State than we did against Clemson. We got no pressure on Clemson at all, and we never got DJ off his spot. And I thought we did a much better job on Saturday of getting Travis off his spot. We got some good pressure on him early. He was having a hard time being able to set his feet. And I thought Rondell and Jasheen and some of those guys, it didn't show up in the stat sheet, but they were extremely disruptive. And a lot of those third down stops on 3-man rushes is because they got the quarterback to move, and which is half the battle.
How hard is it being 2 games into the conference season, then having to kind of pivot to take on an Army team, which, as you said, is already tough to prepare for? But you've already started the conference season, and now you're having to kind of pivot a little bit to Army.
I don't view it that way. I really, they all count as one. And I know it's, again, the conference is super important and we want to win the conference, but we want to win every game. We want to be nationally ranked. We want to have double-digit wins. We want to go to a New Year's Six bowl game. Those are all goals of ours, and every single game plays into all of those goals other than getting to the ACC championship game. So you start out a season, you have a list of all these different things you want to accomplish, and for a lot of those goals, other than one of them, the Vanderbilts and the Liberties and the Armies are all very important football games. So we don't, come in here before a game and say, hey, guys, this is a non-conference game. It's not as big a deal. We only get 12 of them, and they're all really important.
Would you prefer to play in the earlier part of the season before the conference schedule?
Well, if you look at this year, I would always love to play our 4 non-conference games first, and then, but it doesn't always work out that way. And, a team like, it worked out pretty well that, we're halfway through the season and we'll be done with the non-conference schedule. Now, getting Clemson and Florida State back-to-back early in the year, I always appreciate the ACC schedulers when they do that. But you got to play the game sometimes, and for them to think that Wake Forest is the one team that can handle that in September and October, we'll take that as a compliment.
Dave, on the tape from what you've seen of Army so far, how has the new rule about chop blocks been implemented, and how much does that affect what they do?
They've been very strategic with it. They're still cutting. Their aiming point on their blocks is a little bit more at the waist than the thigh board. And if you watch it, you can tell how actively they've coached it. So they're still getting people on the ground. The difference is the perimeter blocks. A lot of times those slots would arc and cut your safeties and your corners. But what they've done is they've had a lot more reduced sets that they just collapse the whole edge. So they're finding different ways of getting to the edge. And it's like any rule change. Good coaches adapt, and Jeff's a good coach. They've adapted. They're still getting the ball on the edge, they have found a different way to do it.
At tight end, I noticed you have Blake still on the depth chart, but not Cam Wright. Can you give us an update on Cam?
Blake will play. Right now, Cam won't, and we think we'll get Cam back after the bye week.
How important is, the backups, like just this week, the scout team in preparing for a team like Army?
It is so important. It's the biggest challenge of defending any triple option team when you don't run that is just the blocking's different, the timing of the fullback, the quarterback, the pitch back, all those relationships are really hard to duplicate. Now we worked against Army in the spring. We worked against Army in fall camp. The scout team has been practicing it every other Sunday since we started the season. And they're doing a good job, but it's never the same as when you face it in the game. But that is one of the most important parts of any preparation for a triple option offense is trying to mimic the looks with your scout, knowing that even if they do a great job, it's not going to be the same as what we're going to see on Saturday.
Dave, how fun is it to see those wide receivers competing against each other every day in practice? Because you have so many good ones. Is that one of the things you maybe take a look at and say, that's pretty cool?
You go into every game knowing that you have guys out there that can make plays. And every week it seems like it's a different guy. I told Atorian that we play Florida State again this week. He gets up for that game. And I said, AT, I go, we play Florida State again this week. And he looked at me. And I'm like, whatever it is that week, like you are so locked in, you're so focused, you catch everything. And he's like, well, Coach, out of high school, that was my dream school. And I'm like, when you get married someday, don't tell your wife that some other woman was your dream wife. Don't you can think that. Don't share that with the head coach. So he just that game 2 years in a row, he's played his best football, and he played outstanding and made so many critical catches. And the week before it was Jamal. And last week was AT, and what Keyshawn did was incredible. I mean, that one third down catch, I'm getting ready to call the defense up because I see the safety under the catch, and that was just an incredible effort by him. That was a game-changing play. And Key's capable of doing that, and Taylor Marin can make plays like that. So we have... the catch Donovan Green made on the third down against the blitz. His arm was completely pinned. The DB completely grabbed his inside arm. And he made that one-handed catch, and Sam threw a perfect ball that only Donovan could catch. And I still get so excited when those guys make those plays, but they seem to make plays like that every week.
How important, I think you alluded to it in the post-game, and Justice, I know alluded to it, how important do Keyshawn and Taylor become when teams are going to, look at the Clemson game and have on balls? How important are Taylor and Keyshawn to the continued success of the passing game?
They're all really important, Connor. The nature of what we do on offense really is not that much different than what Army does, right? When Army runs their triple, they don't know if the fullback, quarterback, or pitch guy can end up with it. And when we start that slow mesh, we don't know if we're going to hand it, and we can throw it to any one of those four guys. And you're always trying to find the one-on-one and who has the single coverage. And so the more that we're able to hit Donnie and AT and Jamal on the outside, and the more that those guys get safety over top coverages, the more it's going to open up the middle for Key and Taylor. And so a lot of times in our seasons, right, Jacory would have a really good game, and the next game he'd be quiet, but then AT would have a big game. And that's all part of the design, that we go into games and let's see what they're going to do. And you can't double everybody and outnumber the run. So there's always going to be either a numbers advantage or a matchup. And then what's critical is your ability, if you find the matchup in the one-on-one, you got to win it. And that's where our improvement at receiver over the years has allowed us to be an effective offense. Because it's one thing to find the one-on-one, but if you can't win the one-on-one, you're gonna lose the game there. And we can win one-on-ones on the outside or at the slot.
Coach Kobe Turner said after the game, the defense's performance came down to just playing ball with the guys. Can you see this team starting to have a lot more fun out there as the season progresses?
They are, and I think part of it is just the D-line. I mean, we're better on the D-line. We've got depth. You know, we're playing 9 guys every game. You know, we're playing 4 tackles consistently. You know, Tyler and Dion start, but Kobe's playing just as much as those guys, and Kevin Pointer, we have a lot of trust and confidence in him. And then at defensive end, you know, Ja'Cory and Rondell start, but Jasheen and Kendron play a lot of football, and Bernard Gooden plays a lot too. And so we're playing 9 defensive linemen. We're rolling them all in there. It keeps guys fresh. It keeps guys healthy. And I think that's one of the biggest differences on defense is that we do have that depth on the D-line. And when you can constantly be rolling guys in there who are fresh, you can be a lot more disruptive. And we're going to have to do that this week as well.
And do you think that's happening also, you know, at linebacker as well? It seems like Dylan Hayes is rolling a lot more. Jalen Hudson as well, forcing that fumble. Those guys seem to be getting a little bit more time now.
They are. I mean, Dylan has really improved, and Jalen, you know, didn't play as much as we wanted to get him in there, but when he got in there, he forced the fumble. And Jalen is so valuable to us on special teams. And he's, you know, starts on, I think, just about every unit. And Ryan Smenda probably had one of his best games of the year. He really had a great game. So, you know, our goal at linebacker has always been to have a pair and a spare. And now we have a pair and a pair. And Quincy Bryan is also getting better. So we might have a pair, and a spare. And that allows us to keep people healthy. That has always been our biggest challenge here, is we've had a lot of years that we got off to a fast start, and then we've kind of petered down the end because we didn't have the depth. And right now my biggest goal is we have depth, and we just got to keep that depth. And that's going to be the key for us heading down the stretch.
How many times did you play the review of Ivan Moore's tackle?
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty good.
It was. You know, part of the problem is, you know, if he kicks the ball a little deeper into the corner, the ball never gets out. So it's, you know, good news, bad news. You know, but I just thought that tackle is, you know, the play in the bowl game, and I just, like, thank God he got up and he was okay.
Anything else from Coach Cass? All right.
All right, thank you. Yeah.